Welcome to Dram Goal. We got sports, we've got a Texas legend, and we've got some conspiracy theories in the whiskey world. So, grab a glass, put the game on mute, and take a listen.
Let's do this.
All right, welcome to Dram Goal. It's been a good minute since we've been on, so let's get into it. We're going to get into a whole heap load of mess. I'm here. I'm your host, Kurt. I got my co-host, Dick.
What's up, Drammers?
This is Dick. Anyway, thanks for joining us today. We have been off the air for a while doing like live stuff, but we're excited to be back. We're going to talk sports. We're going to talk Sam Houston. We're going to explain why we're talking Sam Houston. I guess Dick's going to explain that it has something to do with the Olympics coming up, or maybe they're not coming up. I don't know.
No, we're not talking about the Olympics today. Figured we'd give them more time.
Oh, even better.
Make sure we're still having an Olympics this year.
Well, shit. There's never a wrong reason to talk about a guy from Texas. I guess I'm in on that. Dick, shoot him with the socials, please.
Yeah, so Drammers, we always hit you with this. Want to keep it going, obviously. You can always find us at 4th Dram and Goal. It's 4thdramandgoal.com. Our Instagram and Twitter handles are both 4thdram, all one word. And then Facebook, of course, 4th Dram and Goal. As always, tell your friends about us. Give us a listen. You can find us on Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Audible, CastBox, Spotify. Shout out with the new Apple update and announcement. You can actually subscribe on Apple Podcasts. So if you're listening to us on there, make sure you hit us and actually subscribe with the new Apple Podcast service. And then we're always looking for feedback, looking for new listeners. Don't hesitate to go ahead and reach out to us at 4th Dram and Goal at gmail.com. That's 4thdramandgoal at gmail.com. We want to hear your feedback. Ask us some questions. Tell us how much Kurt's intro sucks, or how much you love our history lesson we're about to give to you tonight. Anyway, with that being said, let's talk a little bit about what we're actually going to be drinking tonight and why we're talking about Sam Houston.
So did Sam Houston play Dennis Quaid in that movie, or did Dennis Quaid play Sam Houston?
I mean, can anybody play Dennis Quaid?
'Twas 20-some years ago when Napoleon decided to retreat. Anyway, I don't think that was a good Dennis Quaid, but yeah, tell us about this magical substance that you've sent me. And this was one of those on that wonderful weekend a long time ago where I had it after about 5 or 6 and I wasn't impressed, but as the eye root changed my mind, maybe this will do the same. And yeah, thanks for the sample, buddy.
Yeah, man. And I'm really interested to see what your thoughts on this, because I've had this recently. I've got my review ready to go here. Pre-game did a little bit. But we're talking about Sam Houston 14. And for those who aren't not aware of what this product is, it's only currently in about 17 states for the most recent batch 5 that came out. Prior to that, it was in 9 states. So it's kind of expanding out a little bit. But the last release was actually in fall of 2020, and that's when I happened to pick this guy up. It sits on the shelf from $100 to $115, assuming you're not in a secondary market or at a tiny little liquor store with those great orange, green, and pink star cutouts that, always say sale.
I'm overpriced.
Yes, exactly. We always say, if you see those, walk away, walk away. So this bad boy comes in at 98 proof. It's a 14-year and 4-month aged bourbon. So it's getting into that really upper echelon of aging, almost ultra aged. We did the Prideful Goat review. It's a 15-year bottle. They're always going to be pushing this, kind of aging up things, trying to get into that kind of pappy realm of some of their 20 and 23s, but not quite there. The mash bill in this thing comes in at 74% corn, 18% rye, and 8% malted barley. I want you to remember that, because as we start talking whiskey conspiracies, those numbers are going to be very interesting. Now, tonight we're rocking with batch 3. I want you to remember that too, because batch 4 and 5 are 2020, so this is actually a 2019 product. So if you have one of batch 4 or batch 5, it may be a little bit different than what we're drinking tonight.
Yeah, so this is not one of our intro episodes. This is not your Jack Daniels, your Maker's Mark. This would be your AAA ball, correct?
Yeah, I think so. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's on the cusp of going to the majors.
yeah. This one you're not going to see too often. You probably have not had it. If you're a newbie or if you listen to us more for the sports, which I don't know why you would, but yeah. So this is a different take today. Good stuff. Thanks for that background. Excited to hear what you got to say about the conspiracy stuff, Dick. Badass label too.
Very badass label. Keep that in mind too.
All right, so let's get into that second dram, right, buddy?
Let's do it, man.
Oh, but before we do, it's weird. I was reading something. I did try to do a little bit of nerding out just so I could be 1/10 of you. They do the batches by state, right? They do it from like 3 different states. Are you going to get into that later?
I wasn't going to get into that, but you are correct. If you get a bottle, you're going to see the state, essentially abbreviation, and a dash number and a dash, then a number. That state is the state it's allocated for, and the -3 in this situation is the batch number.
So this one I'm assuming is the Texas one.
Texas batch 3.
Do you know the other 2 states? I'm assuming one's Kentucky.
There's more than that. There's a Maine, there's an Indiana, there's one for every state they distribute in.
Interesting. All right. So that was my nerd for the segment where I wanted to sound like Dick for just a little bit.
I like it a lot.
I like it. All right. Dick, what do you got for us? I'm looking at our notes here and I'm seeing something about the man, the myth, the legend, Jack Daniels. I'm never going to stop you from talking about that. Go for it.
Yeah, man. So I was doing a little bit of whiskey news and reviews research, as I always do. The one thing that kept popping up is actually from this Tuesday, #420. Former Jack Daniels distiller Jeff Arnett is opening a new distillery with 2 other Tennessee names, Chris Tatum and Corey Clayton. Chris Tatum used to be on like the Tennessee whiskey distiller. I don't know. He was like the board chairman or something like that. And then Corey Clayton apparently is a big like property guy. Apparently Clayton Homes is a big thing in Tennessee. Never heard of him. But they're actually opening a company called Company Distilling. It's going to open in Townsend, Tennessee. I think it's like 10 or 15 acres. And that is going to be like a groundbreaking thing that they start next year. But we're talking about like a $20 million investment with an upwards initial employee size of 50, 60 employees. So we've always talked about what would it take to open our own 4th Dram distilling or 4th Dram bottling company or whatever. I guess to do it right, it takes 20 mil.
I'm going to say, I talked about AAA and stuff earlier. I'm going to say this is starting off in the pros with this crew right here. I don't think there's any hitting the ground rough. Like it's going to be very interesting.
Yeah, they're going big.
Yeah, I don't think these guys will have a problem getting. They're not the mom and pop distillery. Don't think Indy's going to be part of their name or anything.
No, I mean, heck no, especially Blake Poole and Jeff Arnett. I mean, we don't know details of whose idea this was or if it was like hey, let's grab a bottle and talk about an idea I've got. But he was at Jack Daniels for 20 years. He was a master distiller. Like, it's going to be really interesting to see if he comes up with some good stuff. And you got to think they start distilling in 2022, let's just say late in the year, early 2023. We should start seeing their product in 2025, 2024, 2025. So I'm interested.
Well, I won't debate you there. I'm not a master debater, but what else you got?
I beg to differ on that one.
What else you got?
The other one, we've heard this kind of kicked around a little bit early times. One of our fan favorites. Don't run out and buy 6 cases, but it is something to know that Sazerac obviously did purchase them. I think the news is getting out a little bit more.
Last summer, right?
Yeah, but they just announced, I think back early April, that they're actually going to start distilling, aging, and bottling the Early Times brand in Bardstown this summer at the Barton 1792 distillery. So that's the same distillery to 1792, one of our, favorite, I don't say favorite, but one of our more pleasing products out there. What are your thoughts, man? Do you think we're going to see a change in the product?
I hope not.
I hope not too.
I hope it stays the same, just as much as I hope Sazerac rye doesn't change in price. I hope it continues to be what it is, what made it special. I hope the purchase is just kind of an improvement in maybe making it more available. I like it what it is. I don't want it to get any more special. I don't want it to get into the $30 range. I want it just how it is. So don't mess this up. 1792, Cool, that's great. I don't want it to be 1792. I want it to be early times. So that's all I've got to say about that.
So let me ask you this: you gonna go buy a case?
Of early times? Well, shit, I should. I've bought enough over the last year or so. I may as well. Like, damn, I've given them at least $120.
So is it worth the $120 investment? You know, you'd walk into Specs, hey, they got a case. Let me go and buy 6 bottles.
The nights that I've had thanks to early times, I always do that thing where early times will turn into the third dram for me, and I find myself catching like texting a new friend like, dude, you got to try early times. Like, that's what early times is to me. Like, sure enough, last time I had it, dude, you've got to try early times if you haven't. So I've given them some advertising. They should probably give me a nice
they sponsor the show. You know, $5. Keep it going.
Sold.
The other thing is with this, and the reason I'm asking this question is this kind of begs the whole age-old question of, does it become allocated because it's going to change, right? There are variables changing. People are going to get a little bit handsy with it, if you will. I've read on a couple of Facebook groups that they went into a local liquor store. And the guy behind the counter was like, oh, this is actually allocated. You know, we're actually increasing the price because they're not going to make it anymore. It's going to be different. It's becoming one person per bottle per day. I don't see that at Specs.
Well,
I haven't.
If you go back to my New Year prediction, what was I saying?
I don't know. Something about you being wrong.
I said early times was going to lean heavily towards the allocation area, but I don't know.
That fucking sucks.
Well, the one thing that I think may save it is I don't think it's as sexy as the Blanton's bottle or the Eagle Rare bottle. And I'm not going to lie, I think a huge percentage of the reason those bottles have become what they have is because of the label, is because of the bottles. Early times, I mean, first off, it's a damn handle. So it has that going against it for special bottles. I mean, I love more whiskey, but when it comes to,
it's a screw top.
Yeah. So maybe that saves it. And then the other thing that I think might save it is Blanton's. I mean, we were talking about a buddy the other day. He's not a huge whiskey guy, but what's the first whiskey that's going to get recommended to a newbie that's trying to be fancy and want to show up to the party? Go get Blanton's, bro.
I mean, that's what a putz is going to say.
Right, and now it's.
I mean, real whiskey.
I literally saw a Facebook post the other day. What do I start drinking? And there was literally 15 Blantons, and this was from our little old neck of the woods. And then it's turned Eagle Rare. I've heard 3 within the last 4 months or so. Do y'all have any Eagle Rare? So I don't know. I'm hoping the simplicity, the handle, I hope everything like that keeps early times just the way it is.
Well, let's stop talking about it. Maybe people will stop buying it.
True that.
All right. So the next kind of like headlines, let's talk about sports headlines, man. We are a whiskey and sports podcast. We're going to be heavy whiskey tonight.
We came whiskey out of the gate. That's a change up. I bet you're loving it.
Well, I wanted to kind of, toss it up a little bit. We're trying to bring in new segments. So new ideas, new segments. Hopefully our what in the world of whiskey that we're about to do will be a mainstay. Maybe not all the time, but not a lot happening in sports right now. I mean, it's baseball season. You've got some off-season news. We got the NFL draft coming up, I think, next weekend. We haven't talked about that yet. I'm sure we'll talk about the outcomes of it. What's going on, man? You got any topics you want to talk about?
Texas Tech. I mean, shit. Hours ago, Mac McGlung said, I'm either staying at Tech or I'm going pro. So he's taking his name out of the transfer portal. That's cool. Because that's like, the new head coach, Mark Adams, saying, nah, I don't want to go UT. I'm good. So he chose Tech over UT. Of course, it was a head position, but still. And then Matt McGlung, who I'm going to argue with you if you say otherwise, I don't think there's a college program in the country that wouldn't want Matt McGlung right now.
I agree.
Sure, there's going to be the teams that maybe he doesn't fit schematically. Maybe they just don't need him. Maybe they have somebody that he doesn't need to share the ball with. Maybe like he wouldn't fit in at Gonzaga. But
he's a winner. He's
98%,
a winner and a leader.
Exactly. So he's literally he has his choice out there, and he's saying, "Nah, if I stay in college, I'm going to stay Tech." So that's cool.
Is that a direct reaction to Adams being hired?
It could be. I'm hoping it is. I'm hoping they love the guy enough. I mean, their team did get depleted. I think before he announced this, I believe there was going to be 5 players returning, 5 solid players, but. It could be because of him.
Awesome. All right, man. Alex Smith, the man, the myth, the legend, retired.
Yeah, you texted, or I texted you. Who texted you? Did I text you or did you text me?
I think
I texted you, and then you said, "Holy shit!"
Yep.
What a win. Then we talked about it, and I said it was the right time. It needed to happen. Like, he didn't need to go to a crappy team. He, God forbid, another injury. He made the comeback, did something that nobody, very few people would have done. And it's time. It's good. It's the perfect ending.
Yeah. Don't Emmitt Smith it. Don't go play for a season for a team for a year and then ruin your entire legacy. Couldn't agree with you more.
I think it was weird. I don't like the way it ended, with him even saying that they didn't want him in that, at Washington. Like, I think he was the distraction. I don't think that was sad. But no, it was right. He's done. He didn't have to do anything else.
So what's next for him? Coaching or broadcasting?
Motivational speaking, that's for sure.
All right.
I don't know. Not all announcers can be too, but he looked very close to his family. He's gone through a lot, a lot of rehabbing, a lot of extra, practices to get him back to where he was. So it may just be family time for a while, which you absolutely can't blame the guy.
I don't know. He's got young kids. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen the documentary of him. I think it was E60. Great, speaks great. So I would not be surprised if announcing is in the future. Yeah, so I hope he enjoys retirement. Chet Holmgren, did you see that guy?
No.
The #1 college basketball recruit in the country.
Oh, he's going to Zaga, yeah.
Yes. Have you seen that dude play?
No.
Holy hell. You talk about something that just doesn't look right. I mean, what is he, like 7'1" or something, and he's dribbling up the court like a point guard? He is amazing. Gonzaga was heavy favorites to get him. They are losing some people, but he's, that's exciting. It's exciting to see how he does.
He sounds a lot like Kevin Durant, his play style. Young Kevin Durant.
Yeah, but the dude could shoot the 3 too. That's what's like dangerous about him.
Yeah, Kevin couldn't do that he couldn't do that in college.
Yeah,
he can now. Or he could.
I don't know. You're leaving yourself open. That's one of those type in what's Kevin Durant's 3-point percentage in college, and I bet you it's like, I don't know.
Maybe he'll mean tweet me and we can go back and forth in the DM.
Oh yeah, he'd probably cuss you out a little bit, and then you can go on the defense and maybe sue him because he talks shit about you. Anyway,
good job, Robert. All right, NFL jersey rule change. So
talk about going into my who gives a shit category, but yeah, go for it.
I mean, it's there. So I didn't give a shit until Brady gave a shit, right? So summary on this: running backs, wide receivers, and tight ends can be allowed to wear anything from 1 to 49 or 80 to 89. Defensive backs can be allowed to wear anything from 1 to 49. Linebackers are permitted to wear anything 1 to 59 or 90 to 99. Sounds a lot like college. Jalen Ramsey and a few others have already come out and say, yeah, I might change my number. Then you have others saying, no, staunchly, I'm not going to change my number because what about all the fans who are going to get pissed that they bought my old number? And now it's kind of like the Kobe situation. We went from 8 to 24. But
Steve Harvey, show who gives a shit on number 1 on the board as I continue. Who gives a shit? And you're going to complain to me about people buying jerseys? I just bought a Deshaun Watson jersey not too long ago. Well, the Battle Red, to be fair. I've had one, but I just bought the Battle Red one. Looks like that one's turned bloody red. Anyway, who cares, man? I understand.
Brady cares?
I know, Brady. I know. Oh, if there's a guy with number 2 who's the Mike linebacker and he could be blitzing and I have to call that out correctly. Yeah, okay, Brady. You've won 7 Super Bowls, dude. I think you're going to be able to identify the stud players on the opposite team. Like,
When I read the Brady tweet, all I can think of like this is his old man get off my lawn moment. And I'm like, I agree with you.
no fun league. Really, Brady? You're going to be confused about like Khalil Mack coming across the line because his number's different? Like, gee whiz.
Maybe, man. You don't know. But without further ado, let's go ahead and nose this Sam Houston 14. I want to hear what you think about it.
Please, actually, something I do give a shit about. Thank you.
Hey, I do my best.
The nose is very good. And I was wondering, I was like, why do I like it so much? Besides the fact that there's traditional noses there. There is, I get the barrel, I get the oak. No duh. Some fruits, not very sweet fruits. Actually, maybe some sour fruits, tart a little bit. But yeah. Dude, I was like, why do I love this nose? This smells like my kiddo's hair after I wash it with Johnson & Johnson shampoo. Like, I'm not even kidding. That's what I'm getting. Yeah, I was like, God, that's familiar. That's my son's Johnson & Johnson.
Sure you're not washing your kids with bourbon?
That is a possibility. Or maybe it's like drooling out of my mouth onto their hair as I'm... wow, that's so weird. Now I can't get it out of my mind. I know it's been a while for you since you've been around the Johnson & Johnson, but...
No, I don't think that smell ever leaves your mind.
Oh, man. No, but other than that, tart fruit.
I get fruit. I get like red cherries, red fruit. See, I like the tart call.
I'm not getting sweet cherries, like maybe even lemon.
I got like a salted caramel, like toffee kind of thing going on.
I can see.
But here's the kicker, right? So when you read Sam Houston 14,
I think of brisket. That's what it smells like. Some damn brisket.
Does not smell like brisket.
And mesquite wood from Refugio.
Okay. Most Texas barbecues is oak.
So yeah, but whatever.
Mesquite burns too hot.
Oh, shut up, Aaron Franklin.
All right. So I like your call outs here, but what I want to get into is Sam Houston. I'm thinking this is a Texas whiskey when I pick it up on the label or pick it up on the shelf. You read the label, you realize it's not. But there is like a corn, like a sweet corn. It's not Texas funk, but it's light and airy.
Or you would expect it to be from Tennessee if you really know your history.
Well, we'll get into that. Great call. Great call. But it's not. It's from Bardstown, Kentucky. Well, it's where it's distilled. It's bottled.
An MGP traditionally, isn't it?
No.
Really?
It's a Bardstown product. We'll get into that.
No MGP at all in the background at all?
If you look up everything, it's not MGP. Lawrenceburg, Indiana. Nope. But I don't want to get into it yet, but give me your rating. What's the smell? Give me the grade.
I swear I think I've heard MGP, but
I'll give you the facts. I'll let you decide it.
I love the nose. The nose is really good.
You want me to give you mine first? Or you want to go?
Well, because if we have the same thing, then people are going to say I'm copying you. All right, on 3. 1, 2, 3.
B plus.
A minus. Yeah, mine's bigger than yours. All right. Okay. You want to explain or you want me to explain? Okay, on 3. 1, I'm just kidding. No, this is very good news. Very, very, it's a weird combination of subtle but deep. And it's lasting in the nose,
Yeah.
Not a high peak that hits you, not burning, not, and this is a 98 proof, so I wasn't expecting a very, proofy nose. But I like it. That's something I could nose all day.
Yeah, not quite there as far as nosing all day for me. I do like it. I would say that like Prideful Goat is something I could nose all day.
Oh, well, now you're just talking about A+ territory there, buddy.
What I'm saying, if I want to nose it all day, that's what I want. So let's go ahead and get into our third dram. We're drinking Sam Houston 14 tonight, so we're going to give a little bit of background about Sam Houston, the guy that the bottle is named after. And this really started off for me thinking, hey, how can we kind of open the show? Let's talk about what in the world of whiskey.
I want to make a clarification. We are going to try our best to not make this drunk history. Okay. As we were coming up with the idea and we were talking about it, I was like, oh shit. Like this is drunk history. We just can't be drunk. So
there's a segment of it. There's a segment of it that is very similar. But I want to give a little bit of background about Sam Houston, important political figure and historical figure within the state of Texas. We're talking about the guy who led the army through the Battle of San Jacinto, captured Santa Ana, and got him to sign the Treaty of Alaska, which gave Texas an independence. Fun fact: that entire battle lasted 18 minutes. 18 minutes.
The Battle of San Jacinto.
Mm-hmm.
But everyone remembers the Battle of the Alamo, Dick,
which was days long, right? And then everybody forgets the Battle of Gonzales, which is where Sam Houston ran, Santa Ana through to San Jacinto. So fun times. He was the first and third president of the Republic of Texas in that short time span when Texas was its own state. Also why Texas flag can fly as high as the American flag, where all other flags have to fly lower. That's part of the annexation of Texas into the larger republic. He was the seventh governor of Texas, right? So we're talking about a long-lasting political figure here. And he was the only governor, although he was a slave owner, he was the only governor to oppose the secession from the Union, which led up to the Civil War, which actually led him to refuse allegiance to the Confederate States of America, and ultimately kind of led to the demise of his political career, where he went down to Galveston and then to Huntsville, where he ultimately died.
All right, so this is where our first debate's going to be like sports.
Sure.
He did want to leave the Union. He did not want to join the Confederacy.
Okay.
No, argue back. That's the fun part of this.
I mean, when you read the literature that I read, I mean, I think it's semantics, but he was not pro-Confederacy. He believed in the greater Union, the Union of the United States. I don't think he believed in seceding from the U.S.
Well, I read in my literacy.
In your literacy? In your literature? You are a teacher, so.
Shut the fuck up. I did read on the back of my literature, on the back of the comic book, that he did want to leave the Union, but he didn't want to join the Confederacy. But I'll leave it at that.
Well, he did decline an offer from a Union officer to lead 50,000 men against the Confederates. So
that doesn't mean he didn't want to leave the Union. Maybe he wanted to do his own thing again.
Maybe.
And I do know.
I think it's a debatable fact.
I do know Sam Houston was very pro-join the United States when Texas was its own country because of the resources and, joining a proven, whatever.
So just off the top of your head, where would you rate Sam Houston in like famous historical Texas figures?
Number one.
Yeah, I think you're right. I mean,
where do I live?
He has a city named after him. University named after how many statues?
Fun fact for you, you know what the first capital of Texas was?
Houston.
Yep.
It was actually the capital of the Republic of Texas.
And then those dang hippies took it, just like our Chris Beard, son of a bitch. Anyway. All
right. So let's talk about fun facts. That was like my favorite one is he once beat up a U.S. congressman with a cane as he was walking down Pennsylvania Avenue as he was serving as a Texas senator.
I believe it. I mean, he was Sam Houston. He was from Texas. I mean, that happens today if you go down the street.
Even funner fact, he wasn't from Texas originally. He's born in Virginia, and he moved to where?
I was thinking of a cool song to sing, but Tennessee whiskey.
Tennessee, where he became governor of Tennessee, and then
the sixth governor of Tennessee, to be
exactly. And then he left office because he married a 19-year-old who, like 11 weeks later,
she's a Cherokee woman.
11 weeks later, refused to consummate the marriage. And so then he ran off to Cherokee Nation for like 3 years.
No. Wrong.
How am I wrong?
Second debate. He was married to his first wife.
Yeah.
Okay. They divorced.
That's what I'm talking about.
But it was never legal.
Yes. Same woman. Yes. But because she didn't want to consummate the marriage.
Sure. And then he married the Cherokee woman.
Yeah. I'm in agreement with you there.
Okay. But that was technically never legal because he never had a divorce from the first wife.
Exactly. Yes.
And then he wanted to come to Texas, and the Cherokee woman was like, hell to the no, Norbert. So then they separated. And then he comes to Texas.
Yep.
Were you saying that?
I was. I think we got our wires crossed, but yeah, I'm with the same alignment on the historical
Okay, I
facts.
thought you said the divorce wasn't good with the second one.
No,
anyway,
the 19.
This is where we're trying not to turn into drunk history, but yes,
there's going to be an aspect of it. But fun thing, why he was a member of the Cherokee Nation. That's why he could run back to the Cherokee Nation after Tennessee, because as a teenager in Virginia, he ran off and joined the Cherokees and lived with them for like 3 or 4 years.
Yep, 3 years. Yes.
So very interesting and eclectic individual. I think a lot of the people that we read about in history books have some weird, like, stories that are almost unbelievable. And that's why drunk history is a thing. But he was the only American, as we just spoke about, to be governor of 2 different states, Tennessee and Texas.
Yes, died at 70. And you know what? We joke. I am actually a historian. Like, I love history, so I could literally have this conversation for another 2 hours.
Well, we're going to be doing this on a regular basis now, because you didn't know that I love history.
Well, okay, and let me give you the background of why we're doing this. We were talking about fresh new material for the show, and it was like right there in front of us. One of our favorite things about picking up bottles is the labels. And if the label is going to open its door to you and give you a whole background to dive into, why not do it? So that's why we're starting to do this. Let us know what you think. If you're like, shut up, just give me sports and whiskey, great. If you're like, oh, this is cool, that's kind of what led into it. And Sam Houston 14 was just the perfect bottle to start with that.
It really was. Great pick, Kurt. All right. Any other fun facts or historical nuances that we need to know about Sam Houston?
Yeah, Sam Houston played Dennis Quaid in the movie The Alamo.
You're such a jackass.
That's because if there's one more legend, is Dennis Quaid from Texas?
I have no idea. I just wanted to.
If he is, I love him even more. And then he's number one on my Texas historical list because you're not gonna love Dennis Quaid. You know what I'm talking about, Dennis Quaid. He was
I know the movie you're talking. Yes, I know you're talking.
He was a baseball player, and he didn't make it, so he became a teacher. And then his players made him try out again.
Yeah, that's a plot to a movie.
No, that was the biography of Dennis Quaid.
It was not. Shut the fuck
Who
up.
was born in Houston, Texas. New list. Dennis Quaid, number one.
There you go.
Sam Houston, scoot on over.
But where does Randy Quaid line up in all of that?
Oh, shit. You just blew my mind. I mean, you're not going to put Sam Houston over Randy Quaid. If Randy Quaid was born, let's see. Randy Quaid. Ooh, Randy's looking rough these days. Randy Quaid went to the University of Houston.
Of course he did.
He was born in Texas, in Houston. By hell, you just got to do 1 and 2 in my books.
Isn't Randy Quaid in debt like $10 million or something like that?
I mean, Steve Harvey, throw up on shit that doesn't surprise me. Ding! Like, has Randy Quaid been in a movie since
Independence Day? I'm home or I'm back. That's what it is. Great line. All right. Anything else we need to know?
That Randy Quaid was nominated for Best Supporting Actor Oscar one time. Holy hell.
What movie?
I don't know, but this rabbit hole is just going. 1973's The Last Detail, if you did not know that.
I've never even seen that movie. How was it not Cousin Eddie?
He was not asked to reprise his role as Cousin Eddie in the 2015 Vacation, which I tried not to remember whatsoever. Anyway, that was a wonderful rabbit hole there. You want to get under the palate notes of this glass there, buddy?
Yeah, let's do it, man. I want to see your face when you take your first sip. I can tell you right now, it disappoints. Falls a little flat.
It does, and that's the thing. When the nose is so pleasant,
there's a sourness to it.
I mean, if the nose is horrible or the nose is not good, and then the taste is pleasant, it's a good little turnaround. But when the nose is so good and you get your hopes up,
yeah, I agree with you. There's a bitterness, a sourness to it.
I'm glad you said that. There is a bitterness. There is
it's the oakiness. Like it's
like here comes my weird, I promise I'm not licking anything this episode. But if you were to put alcohol on some oak, maybe like ethanol, actual, which is alcohol, right?
Yes.
So I'm saying alcohol on top of alcohol. If you took rubbing alcohol and put it on some oak, that's kind of what I'm getting on the back end of this. Like it's a sharp spike there at the end.
Yeah, I agree with you. I'm never worried about what you've recently licked. I'm worried about what you licked in the past and why you remember that. That's really what it is. I mean, I've licked my hands after touching one of those basketballs, but I don't remember what that tastes like until you bring it up.
To be fair, everyone had one of those basketballs growing up around 6
Oh, I agree.
Sometime that basketball, I mean, you sniffed it. So you would assume it would taste like that.
Yeah, you sniffed it or it hit you in the face and rubbed your nose and forever had that smell, at least for a couple hours, right on the underside of your nose.
Exactly. See, yeah, that's all I'm getting from this, man.
Yeah. If I hunt, there's like light, like a bubblegum sweetness to it. A little bit of faint vanilla, but I'm hunting at this point. And then I got one, like when I let it sit in my mouth, I did the whiskey chew, the bourbon chew.
I'm doing right now, and I'm chewing.
I got like this like light chocolate, but it was only after the oak dissipated.
So the oak is dissipated, and I'm left with like rubbing alcohol evaporation. Like,
yeah. And that's one thing to say about it. We didn't talk about it. The color on this thing for being a 14-year-old bourbon is very light.
It is, and the proof is light. And this was one of those that, when I was talking to you, like, man, what special bottle do I get? It was on all the YouTube channels. It was talked very highly of. So I was kind of disappointed when I had it at your house. But I was hoping like the Iron Root, like right now, I would take Iron Root Harbinger over this. That was a great bottle.
Yeah, I agree. Which is a true Texas whiskey.
Let's get into that fourth dram in what we're calling What in the Wide World of Whiskey.
That's wrong. We're calling it just What in the World of Whiskey.
Well, this is more fun.
Okay. All right. I'll change the title just for you. That one screw up. All right.
What do we got on the history of this beautiful label?
We're going to break it up with two different sections here. Okay. Some subsections. First one's going to be the history of whiskey. I'm going to throw a few facts at you here, let you fact check me based off what you know. So this whiskey is actually named after the city of Huntsville, Texas, where the Sam Houston State is located.
It's named after Sam Houston.
I know, it's actually, yeah.
Was that a joke?
It was my attempt to be funny, yeah. It's actually named after Sam Houston.
That was so brutal. You could have said this was named after Dennis Quaid. That would have been better. Continue.
All right. It is distilled in Bardstown, Kentucky. Okay. It is bottled by Three Springs Bottling Company in Bowling Green. Not that Bowling Green, Kentucky, not Ohio, not where the semi-famous brown and orange Bears or Browns color university is. Different Bowling Green. All right. This is the third release. There have been 5 releases so far. I talked about them a little bit.
2 cities named themselves Bowling Green?
Yeah. Why?
I don't know.
When I first read it, I was like, oh, Bowling Green University must be there. I looked up, I was like, no, that's Ohio.
I knew it was in Ohio, the school and the team.
Yeah. So
But
this,
anyway,
not fun facts. The thing about Sam Houston 14, and this is where it gets super important in the details. This is always a 3-barrel batch. So it's a small batch, but it's not a single barrel, right? So they take 3 barrels and that becomes that bottle, like that bottling run. So this one, for example, is bottle 416 out of 515 barrel or bottle, sorry, but it's 3 barrels. The mash bill, we talked about it in the beginning, is 74 corn, 18% rye, 8% malted barley. Fun fact, its sister whiskey called Calumet Farms
Calumet.
is actually named after Calumet Farm, which is the famous horse breeding farm, right? Kentucky Derby champions, all those funds. We're talking about a high-end horse.
It's not Calumet.
I noticed Calumet. If I'm saying it wrong, so be it.
Calumet.
There you go. But if you go onto their website, Calumet Farms Whiskey, it's also a 14. It's a 96.2 proof, which is just about a 1.8 proof lower than this. Has the exact same mash bill. And the batch size on this thing is 19 barrels per batch, every one. So what you could say is essentially Sam Houston 14 and Calumet Farm 14 both come from Bardstown Distilling. Both are bottled at the same bottling plant. The only different, very similar proof point. The only difference is the batch size. It's essentially the same whiskey, just in different bottles. And if you look at the bottles, very similar.
The bottles are very similar.
Well, one's more the wine bottle, and this one looks like a George T. Stagg bottle, right? That hard, curve at the top. But the bottle design is very similar. I see Calumet Farm all the time. So if you're interested, about the same price point, pick up Calumet Farm. If you can't find Sam Houston, very similar profile. Same source, same mash bill.
Well, now my mind is really blown because you were talking about the Kentucky Derby. Well, get this. In 1839, he purchased a horse.
Dennis Quaid or Sam Houston?
Same person. But he purchased a horse and named it Copper Bottom. Copper.
Like a copper still?
Uh-huh. Okay, exactly. And he owned that horse until he died in 1860.
No tie, but okay.
Crazy.
So let's talk about the producer, the bottler, Three Springs Bottling Company. It's classified as a rectifier. So a rectifier does not produce spirits, but it blends.
Rectifier. I bought one of those to fix my problem one time.
It does not produce spirits, but it blends and adds flavor to whiskey and other alcoholic beverages. Once again, it's in Bowling Green, Kentucky. And here's the fun part. If you actually start diving into this, you can actually go to this website. It's trademarks.jsutia.com. You can essentially just Google Three Springs Bottling Company, Bison LLC, Bison Capital LLC. There's a registered trademark where Bison LLC is the owner of Three Springs Bottling Company. Okay. Now, dive a little bit deeper. The known owner and primary operator is a guy named Brad Kelly. Okay. Brad Kelly is this super private billionaire who doesn't use email or Twitter or do very many interviews. He's about 65. He's got 3 kids. He's worth around $2.2 billion. And as of 2012, he owned in various states, including Texas and Tennessee, Kentucky, 1.5 million acres of land, to include farmland, which produces corn, wheat, and other whiskey ingredients. Okay.
He's not the guy who coached the Eagles?
No.
Oh, okay.
This is Brad Kelly.
What about UCLA?
Nope, different guy. It's his brother. It's his brother.
Okay. This is the one that got kicked off Clemson, went to Ole Miss,
exactly.
and got arrested for sneaking into the. Okay, continue. Played quarterback for the Broncos.
For doing a panty raid, yeah. So fun thing about him, he actually founded this company called Bowling Green-based Commonwealth Brands Tobacco Company. Allegedly, that's where he built most of his wealth. He was kind of born into the tobacco industry. But ultimately, he is this huge conservationist. He's very active in these environmental conservation efforts and organizations. And he's, like I said, he owns 1.5 million acres of land. He's the 7th largest landowner in the U.S. Here's the kicker, though. This is how you know everything ties together. Do you know what he owns? What is his crown jewel of his assets, if you would say?
Tobacco.
Calumet Farms horse breeding.
Oh.
So if you look at Calumet Farms in the bottle itself, they actually use Calumet Farms, the horse breeding and raising company. They use the same logo, like verbatim. So ipso facto,
he owns the whiskey.
He owns the whiskey. He's a huge conservationist. I don't know where Sam Houston ties into this thing. That's the one missing piece.
It's the horse. I'm telling you.
It's old Copper Bottom. Yep.
Does he own American Spirit cigarettes?
I don't know. I didn't get.
Have you ever smoked an American Spirit cigarette?
So I didn't get into the branding, but apparently the company that he owns made most of their money off of like budget cigarettes. So that would make me think it's American Spirit.
I don't know about that because American Spirits are expensive.
Okay, all right. I thought they were cheap.
And I've had one before. I am not a smoker, but I am if it's 2 a.m., I've had a lot to drink, and I was like 20 something. Sure. They'll put some hair on your chest there, buddy. It's like you're taking the tobacco leaf, just rolling it up and just going to town.
So like a cigar.
Maybe even stronger. Like, holy hell. I thought I was spoofing on some hashish with those bad boys, and I felt so fancy, but then instantly knocked on my ass. Anyway, that was mine.
So it sounds like a very strong cigar.
For you.
Anyway, the reason that this is interesting to me is what we've seen within the whiskey industry is a lot of companies are not very forthcoming with information about where their whiskey comes from, who actually does the distilling, who does the bottling, what their parent company is, etc. We've seen these companies like Broken Saddle, or these brands like Broken Saddle, Broken Friends, Broken Thorn pop up, and you come to find out, oh, they are owned as a subsidiary or as a sub company underneath the Buffalo Trace brand. Lots of different things happening within the whiskey industry. So I thought it was kind of a fun rabbit hole to go down. You start just internet searching the hell out of everything. You see these tiebacks. So ultimately, there's a couple things to take away. You have a Kentucky billionaire who doesn't like to get in the face of the public, is not very well known, who's taking his tobacco money, his land money, and is an environmental conservator, and has kind of parlayed that into creating his own brand. Now, the brand doesn't distill anything. They pull all their whiskey from Bardstown, but they bottle it themselves. And now they have two very similar, very like.
Have you checked out this dude's Wikipedia page? Super
Yeah.
weird. Why does it have like, it's like a picture, like it's sentence, picture. Like I've never seen that before unless I'm just behind on my Wikipedia.
Well, I think you're looking at it on your phone. It looks a little bit different if you look it up on the interwebs.
Sam Houston, and that was fine.
No, this guy doesn't actually have his picture up. You can find it on Forbes, though. Okay. Commonwealth Brands makes USA Gold and Malibu cigarettes.
I've unfortunately
never heard of either of those.
I've had a USA Gold cigarette before.
Is it a budget cigarette?
Funny story. Yes, it's a very budget cigarette, and I'm pulling up the picture to make sure that it's the one that, the Golden Eagle. Yeah. I've had one of those before. Kind of a little different than your American Spirits there.
A little bit different.
Still rough, but
rough around the edges. So I think it's super interesting. You know, how do we know it's a Bardstown product? Well, it says, you know, distilled in Bardstown, Kentucky. And Bardstown does kind of have a track record of not really being very forthcoming on who they sell their liquor to, where MGP is a little bit more forthcoming with that information. You can inquire or ask or look it up online. Typically, it's very straightforward. But Bardstown is a little bit more clandestine, if you will. So that's it, man. That's my rabbit hole. Any fun takeaways, or was this kind of a big waste of time?
No, I want to get your ass to work and find out what that Prideful Goat had in it because it was phenomenal and I want more.
We can find out, man. I wouldn't be surprised if Bardstown product. Because Bardstown and MGP are the two big sourcers of whiskeys.
No, yeah, I know that, but I mean, this doesn't taste anything like that Prideful Goat.
Doesn't have to. It could be different mash bill.
I'm just making a statement there, Dick.
Honestly, the smell is not too different.
Yes, it is.
They're both good.
Yeah.
Prideful's way better.
UNC basketball and UT, but we all know where that went.
All right.
Overall.
Yeah, let's rate this thing. So for me, you want to do it on 3?
No, give me what you got, because I don't. God dang it! That's what I was gonna say.
Hey, I'm the man, the myth, the legend. I'm Sam Houston or Dennis Quaid. No, it is.
No, you're Randy. Yeah,
happily Randy.
It's a B, close to B minus, but the nose was very good, and I'm not gonna lie, I gave it bonus points because of the badass bottle. Yeah. The palate was a little. It was rough, and then the price is rough.
The price is rough, and that's the kicker, man. It's because we talked about how many people are raving over it, and you look at the fact that it's only 3 barrels. This could be a bad batch. It very well could be.
It could be, and like the ones, the bottles that these guys that put them on YouTube, like I've heard, I don't know, you're gonna have to correct me there because you're a big fanboy of theirs. But didn't Dan and Sean, wasn't this one of those that they were like, oh, I would pay like 150, 160?
Yeah, if I remember, they kept calling it a hitter. It's a hitter. It's a hitter.
I would absolutely not do that.
I'd be hard pressed to pay 60 for this bottle again.
Could have been I would pay 60. I would pay 75 because of the bottle.
It's going to make a super cool lamp.
Yeah. But yeah, the price is tough, but nose, bottle, 14-year, the story, B. I'll sit on a B.
But you see why they can sell it for this.
Oh, absolutely.
For 14 years, cool name, cool story, cool label.
Then you start talking about, oh, it's a rare bottle. Well, then the bourbon enthusiasts like me and you are going to go out there and say, oh, this is a rare bottle. There it is. I've got to buy it. Mm-hmm. It's like your Texas oil bust and boom story. I mean, classic. Story as old as time.
Or as old as the original Texas oil boom.
Shut up, Randy. All right.
All right, man. Any other thoughts on this? Or
no, I loved it, and I'm already thinking of the bottles that we can do this for. You know,
it's almost endless.
You can do endless just with the name of the Buffalo Trace bottles.
The Duke.
George T. Oh, great. George T. Stagg. E.H. Taylor.
E.H. Taylor is where I originally wanted to go, but we both didn't have it. So I was like, but we've got some right now.
Taylor small batch, but that is not going to last.
I've got a sample of that, so we could do that.
I will save that for our next episode, my friend.
All right.
All right. Well, let's go ahead and get over that goal line. We talked a lot of whiskey today. It was fun. We talked about this great bottle of Sam Houston 14, the legend of Sam Houston. We had Dick's Conspiracy Hour, more like 5 minutes, but still interesting stuff. And we talked quite sports lately, you know, but we got to some highlights. Dick, hit him with the socials.
Yeah, so Drammers, as usual, we already talked about our website, fortdramandgoal.com, Instagram and Twitter, 4THDRAM, and then Facebook, fortdramandgoal. As always, go ahead and email us any feedback you got, fortdramandgoal@gmail.com, and tell your friends about us. We want to grow the show. Apple Podcasts, Audible, Castbox, Podcast Addict, Google Podcasts, the whole kit and caboodle. We're there. And I'm going to go and hand it over to Kurt for the quote of the episode, sir.
Well, of course, after today's episode, who the heck do you think I'm going to pick a quote from?
Dennis Quaid.
Absolutely. I'm glad you knew that. Dennis freaking Quaid. No, I've got one from the great Sam Houston, because why the heck not? And he said, a leader is someone who helps improve the lives of other people or improve the system they live under. Words to live by the great Sam Houston, a.k.a. Dennis Quaid. To the next drink and the next dram.
Drink on, Drammers.